Lena closes the project tracker at 11:03 p.m. when the progress bar finally flickers green. Her apartment is still. The only sound is the laptop fan winding down. A soft exhale after a day of sprint reviews, build errors, and notification chimes that felt louder than any alarm. She stretches, feeling the imprint of the chair on her back, and thinks about slipping straight into bed. Instead, she opens her email client and types a single word in the to field: moon. It began 2 weeks ago on another late night like this. She had stared at the blank address box, exhausted by deciding who needed what update next, and typed moon as a joke, a placeholder friend above the timelines and metrics. The message she wrote that night was a handful of lines. Build finally passed. Tea has gone cold. Wish I had more daylight. She meant to delete it, but the quiet simplicity felt good. She clicked Save Draft and shut the lid. The relief was small, but unmistakable. Tonight the ritual calls again. The screen's glow rests gently on the apartment walls, turning beige paint into silver. Outside the single-pane window, the city is hushed. A delivery bike whirs past, taillight blinking like a distant star. Then even that hum fades. Lena begins to type, choosing words the way someone might arrange stones in a garden, deliberate, unhurried. Dear Moon, she writes, I logged 7.5 hours on the feature branch, but can't remember the last time I saw real branches. The ficus by my desk is drooping. I keep forgetting to water it. She pauses, sips lukewarm peppermint tea, and listens to rain beginning on the skylight. First a scatter, then a steady patter. The smell of wet concrete drifts in, grounding her. Another paragraph flows. I think I fixed the caching bug. The code finally feels clean, like folded laundry straight from the line instead of pulling shirts from a hamper. She smiles at the image. It isn't technical jargon, just truth. The act of explaining to nobody in particular to something impossibly far away lets her skip the corporate filters and speak plainly. She leans back and notices that the kitchen clock has stopped ticking. Battery's dead, she thinks, but part of her likes its silence. Emails to the moon don't obey schedules. They wait patiently, unbothered by timestamps. She adds, time feels different after midnight. Do you notice that? Hours loop like stray parentheses that never quite close. The cursor blinks. She listens for the heating system, for street traffic. But the apartment answers with a hush so deep she can hear her own pulse. Rain taps the glass faster now, each droplet a soft percussion. Somewhere in the building, an elevator door opens and closes, a far-off metallic lullaby. Lena returns to her message. I'm proud of today, she types, surprising herself. Merge the new analytics module without breaking prod. It's silly how no one will ever know how smooth it went. That's the point of smooth. But I want it recorded somewhere. The moon, she decides, will remember. A faint notification banner appears. Another team chat ping asking if anyone has a minute. She hovers over it, then dismisses the alert. Boundary set for now. She writes, I turned you into my do not disturb button, Moon. When I'm drafting to you, everyone else waits. The realization eases her shoulders. Lightning flashes, silent, remote, illuminating the edges of her curtains. She looks up, half expecting to see the real moon, but the sky is veil-thick with clouds. No matter, the address in the to field glows steadily. She keeps writing. The storm will pass by morning, but I hope it lingers just long enough for deeper sleep. She reads the email from top to bottom. It's not long, barely 200 words, but it feels complete. A quiet ledger of the day's small truths. Code solved, tea cooled, rain listened to. She moves the cursor to the toolbar and clicks Save Draft. The file icon spins once, then settles, as though tucking itself to rest. Closing the laptop, she senses the apartment exhale again, the soft whir shutting down, the final LED blink. The rain's rhythm is gentler now, and the scent of fresh water mixes with the faint peppermint still rising from her mug. She carries the cup to the sink, rinses, and sets it upside down on the rack, water droplets slipping away like punctuation. In the bedroom, she draws the curtains but leaves a finger-width gap, just in case the sky clears. The comforter greets her with a whisper of fabric. She lies on her side, replaying the act. Open compose window, write, breathe, save, close. Simple keystrokes, yet they shift something inside, the way a tide adjusts sand without fuss. Her phone buzzes once on the nightstand, an automated build report, but she flips it face down, screen dimming to black. The room resumes stillness. She pictures her saved drafts floating in a lunar inbox, sealed envelopes resting in dustless light. No judgment, no unread badges, just quiet orbit. As her eyes drift shut, she thinks one last line, unwritten but felt. Good night, moon. Thanks for listening. The thought fades like the final click of a keyboard key, soft and sure. Outside, rain thins to a drizzle, then a hush. The pulse of notifications rests, and somewhere beyond the clouds, unseen yet unwavering, the moon keeps its silent watch. Chapter 1: Too Many Open Tabs. Morning breaks as a pastel wash behind the apartment's thin curtains, but Lena meets it only as a pale reflection inside her monitor. 16 browser tabs bloom like restless petals on the top edge of her screen. Tickets, design docs, an online grocery list, 2 articles about ergonomic stretches you can do in your chair she never quite reads. Slack pings, a calendar reminder flares. The kettle whistles because she forgot it on the stove. As she hurries to rescue the water, she catches sight of herself in the microwave's glossy door. Hair tousled, hoodie half-zipped, expression somewhere between determination and a weather report that predicts drizzle all week. The Sprint demo call at 9 o'clock lands like a slab of ice in a lukewarm pond. Cameras on, cheery chatter, someone's dog barking in the background. Lena presents her new feature, streamlined analytics with a hidden cache prime, and waits for applause that arrives only as a thumbs-up emoji. Then Jira dings. Follow-up task. Hotfix authentication flow. Lunch, if it can be called lunch, is 2 squares of dark chocolate and a spoonful of almond butter between emails. At 3 p.m., she forces herself to stand, refocuses her eyes on the ficus by the desk, and realizes she still hasn't watered it. While filling the small ceramic watering can, she remembers the kettle drain captured earlier and exhales. The water seeps into the soil with a quiet shh, and in that hush, she feels a small gear inside her rib cage click back into place. When the day's final stand-up ends, she leaves the meeting early, pretending her internet hiccuped, and closes her laptop for exactly 60 seconds, long enough to hear the neighbor's television faintly through the wall, long enough to let her shoulders drop. Night comes with a breeze scented faintly of wild onion from the rooftop planters 2 floors up. Lena reopens her machine, but not for work. She types moon into the field, the cursor blinking in patient anticipation. Dear Moon, today's browser tab count peaked at 29. I fixed a bug that none of my teammates will ever notice, and my lunch was 70 calories of confectionery triage. I watered the ficus, though. Small wins. She pauses, letting the fan's low whir and the distant hum of traffic dissolve into the room's stillness. Cooling tea smells of bergamot and honey. She continues, Do you ever feel like a lighthouse keeper for runaway thoughts? I swipe between tabs like a beacon, hoping each flash lands where it should, but most ships sail on by. She describes the stretch breaks she didn't take, the emoji applause that felt tissue thin, and the quiet pride of code that will hum flawlessly beneath someone else's glossy UI. Then she presses Save Draft. The act feels like folding a worry into origami and setting it afloat. Lena powers down, brushes her teeth to the rhythm of rain beginning on the skylight, and slips into bed. As lids grow heavy, she imagines her unsent email drifting toward the lunar horizon, where even the busiest night is silent. Tabs close, notifications mute, and the screen behind her closed eyes fades to the gentle gray of dawn that will arrive, patient, unhurried, tomorrow. Chapter 2. The Vanishing Lunchtime. Tuesday dawns with a list already waiting. Code review comments, design system inconsistencies. 3 hurried calendar blocks titled Quick Sync. Lena resolves to seize an actual lunch break, to eat something warm away from the keyboard. She even stages ingredients on the counter. Instant miso paste, dried wakame, a soft-boiled egg from yesterday. By noon, the first quick sync overruns. The second is rescheduled into the slot that once said lunch. Stomach growling, she scribbles on a post-it. Take care of the machine that takes care of the code. The note sticks to her monitor like a yellow flag of rebellion. At 1:45, she finally steps into the kitchen, only to see Slack lighting up again. Authflow hotfix failing CI on a deprecated dependency. Heart rate spikes, soup forgotten. She returns to her desk, types commands, hunts stack overflow threads. Time melts. It's 4:20 when she realizes she has eaten nothing. Mouse pointer shakes from low blood sugar. She stands, forces deep breaths, and heads to the kettle. The window above the sink frames cottonwood trees tossing in early thunderstorms. Leaves shimmer silver green, and for a moment, gravity shifts. The trees look less like agitation, more like applause from the natural world, cheering her away from the screen. She assembles the miso soup, steam curling gentle fingers around her face. Sitting on the windowsill, she eats slowly, chopsticks plucking seaweed ribbons while raindrops start their tap dance on the glass. The warmth travels downward, untying knots behind her sternum. Work resumes, lighter now. By early evening, the hotfix merges cleanly. Notifications fade. She closes tickets with a satisfying done flourish. Night settles under the eaves, amplifying the scent of damp pavement wafting in. The ritual calls. Moon waits. Dear Moon, I almost forgot to feed the operator of this human-shaped code factory. A reminder, miso, rain, and 10 slow breaths can reboot a day faster than any restart script. She tells the moon about the cottonwoods applauding, about how broth felt like a hug from the inside. She admits she's terrified that small acts of self-care might look lazy to an always-on culture, and presses save draft anyway. when she finally crawls beneath the quilt. Thunder rolls far away, deep and slow, like a giant turning over in sleep. She follows the giant's lead. Chapter 3. The applause nobody heard. The emergency notification blossoms on Lena's phone at 4:12 a.m., a crimson badge against a midnight blue lock screen. Migration alert, data sync stalled, earnings dashboards blank. For half a second, she thinks it belongs to another universe, one still spinning while she sleeps. Then muscle memory overrules disbelief. In a single motion, she silences her alarm for 2 hours later, swings her legs over the side of the bed, and pads toward the glow of her laptop. The apartment is ocean quiet. Shadows soften the edges of every shelf and countertop. Even the ficus looks like a charcoal sketch of itself, all broad strokes and no detail. She pulls on the hoodie draped across the desk chair, its fabric still warm from yesterday's coding marathon, and lifts the laptop lid. Screen light floods the room, turning the pre-dawn gloom a pale aquarium green. 5 separate Slack channels clamor at once. War room, hot data pipelines, our leadership updates, marketing alerts, and a DM from Sam and Sydney reading, "You up? We need another pair of eyes on indices." She is up. She clicks the war room link and enters a chorus of keyboard clacks, stifled yawns, and the hollow echo of voices broadcasting from still dark kitchens around the globe. "Lena, glad you could join," says Maya, the on-call manager, voice tight with caffeine. A shared dashboard fills the video tile beside her, row upon row of zeros, where yesterday's revenue figures should stand. A data team intern scrolls frantically, highlighting error logs in red. Lena mutes herself, curls chilled fingers around an empty mug, and starts skimming. The stalled script is one she helped write 2 summers ago. An overnight migration folder that sweeps raw transaction files into a cleaned aggregate table before sunrise. Most days, it hums along unseen, the robotic custodian of other people's bonuses. Tonight, foreign character in a merchant name has blown the UTF-8 parser to smithereens, jamming the assembly line and splashing nulls across every user dashboard on the continent. She breathes once, twice, forcing panic into a corner. Then she opens a terminal. Coffee can wait, accuracy cannot. Queries fire like probes into darkness. Select count from staging.transactions, where processed equals false. The number hovers near 1,000,000. She flips to the error log, filters by timestamp, sees the rogue diacritic shimmering like a hairline crack across polished glass. "Looks encoding related," she types into the chat. "I'm building a patch to coerce to NFKC and re-queue fails." Sam's thumbs up emoji appears within a second. Encouraged, she copies the offending value into her own console. It renders fine locally. The break must be deeper. File system stomachache, maybe. Or a misconfigured environment variable in the Docker container that ran the cron. A kettle whistles faintly in the corner of her peripheral vision. Reflex action. She must have filled it amid reading logs. She leaves the screen only long enough to pour hot water over a peppermint tea pyramid and return. Steam ribbons pass the webcam. In its wake, she taps out a tiny shell script to re-ingest the stuck batch after re-encoding. Minutes stretch like taffy. On-screen graphs remain flatlined. Someone in marketing stifles a sob. It sounds amplified through the call's compressed audio. "We're bleeding trust points. Investors could wake up any minute." Lena's heart hammers, but her fingers stay steady. She recites a silent mantra. find root cause, fix root cause, verify, verify, verify. 6:02 a.m. The first hint of violet dawn leaks through the skylight, turning raindrops into glints of quicksilver. Her patch container builds clean. She runs a dry run on last night's file shard. The script chews noisily for 40 seconds, then spits out green rows where blank ones had lived. Sam, want to pair in the rollback plan while this backfills? She asks into her mic, voice gravelly with Dawn. He joins a side call. They draft contingency steps, restore from snapshot, validate row counts, toggle dashboard feature flag, should the hotfix blow up production a second time. They rehearse each command like astronauts checking oxygen seals. At 6:27 a.m., the real run begins. The console scrolls faster than her eye can track, a waterfall of fixed rows flowing into the staging table. 30,000, 60, 95. In the war room chat, Maya posts a single praying hands emoji, swiftly echoed by half the team. 6:53 a.m. The dashboard blips. Zeros vanish, replaced by yesterday's numbers plus a few hours of overnight growth. An audible gasp rolls across the video grid, relief so palpable it feels like thunder after oppressive heat. Maya's camera swings to her whiteboard where she scribbles, fixed 0653, flanked by a triumphant sundoodle. In the chat, gifs cascade, fireworks, puppies high-fiving, a cat wearing a superhero cape. Lena smiles, cheeks burning hot from adrenaline. She sips her now cool tea and tries to catch up on her own pulse. Outstanding work, everyone, Maya says. Particularly Lena and Sam for the patch. I'll write the external comms note. Let's reconvene at noon for a post-mortem. The call ends. Slack quiets to an exhausted murmur. Lena closes her eyes, feeling the room rotate slightly, a carnival ride breaking after a long spin. Sunlight has climbed high enough to paint the ficus in soft gold, revealing new lime green shoots she hadn't noticed. She considers crawling back to bed for an hour, but the adrenaline won't permit it. Instead, she showers, letting scalding water pound across knotted shoulders. She changes into fresh jeans and makes proper coffee, savoring the deep, nutty aroma as it slips through the French press. Outside, commuter traffic begins its weekly pageant. Engines grumbling, tires hissing on still damp asphalt. Somewhere a garbage truck clanks, and pigeons flap upward in gray surprise. By 8 a.m., Lena is dressed, caffeinated, and staring again at her monitor. The blank document of the post-mortem template open. Bullet points tumble from her fingers. Root cause. Encoding mismatch for extended Latin characters. Timeline. Migration started 3:01, stalled 3:017. Zeros first reported 4:0405. War room open 0418. Hotfix deployed 0627. Impact. Earnings dashboards displayed inaccurate zero values for 100% of users in North America. Resolution, patched parser, reprocessed backlog. Added UTF-8 validation and alarm triggers. She writes crisply, but each keystroke feels like trudging through wet sand. The heroics that felt incandescent 40 minutes earlier already appear dulled by the clinical language of after-action reports. She adds a lessons learned section, plan character set fuzz testing and staging, implement metrics on stalled job length, but closes the doc before filling in next steps. The glow is gone. At 10:15 a.m., Maya pings, asking whether Lena can own the kickoff at noon and walk the team through the fix. Sure, she replies, but something inside her shrinks. Walking through it means reliving it, but boiled down to bullet lists and screen captures, while faces glance sideways at calendars for their next meeting. She needs air. She grabs keys, phone, mask, and heads downstairs, blinking like someone stepping from a cave. Morning sun is brighter than any status light. It fills the street with amber optimism, unbothered by dashboards or zeros. Fresh bread scent rolls from the corner bakery. She buys a croissant still warm enough to fog the paper bag, crosses to a pocket park, and sits under a plane tree shedding mottled bark. The croissant flakes across her lap. Butter pools on her tongue. Traffic slides by. Cars, cyclists. A woman herding two Labradors who tangle their leashes, then shake it off with goofy joy. None of them know that their banking app nearly served them ghosts of income this morning. None of them need to. The invisibility of her work is, in theory, a blessing. Only broken systems announce themselves, but the human part of her aches to be seen. She checks Slack. 187 unread messages since she left. In one thread, a director congratulates the on-call crew without naming individuals. In another, a product manager asks for an ETA on a feature unrelated to the incident. She pockets the phone, deciding the pocket park has better conversation. Rustling leaves, scolding sparrows, distant sirens rising then fading like exhalations. Back home at 11:40, she reviews screenshots for the post-mortem. Her eyes feel grainy, but focus returns when she spots a quirk in the GPU usage graph, an unrelated inefficiency she'll file later. Lunch is a bowl of instant oats, into which she folds a handful of blueberries and too much honey. The sugar buzz nudges her alert just as the noon meeting starts. Faces populate the virtual gallery. Maya, Sam, the intern, 3 engineers from data science, a sleepy VP dialing from what looks like a guest bedroom. Lena shares her screen, narrates the timeline. She explains the encoding bug, shows the patch script, fields 3 questions about safeguards. Sam jumps in with color commentary, praising Lena's quick rejects wizardry and refreshingly thorough validation. She smiles, muted thanks, but the praise bounces off an internal wall. The adrenaline has emptied her reserves of perception. When the call ends, she logs the action items in Jira, then drifts through the next hours on autopilot, answering DMs, reviewing a pull request, responding to an HR reminder about timesheet deadlines. By 3 p.m., her head aches behind the eyes. She closes Slack and sets a 20-minute timer for a desk-side nap. Sleep doesn't come. Instead, she stares at the ceiling, tracing cracks in the paint, listening to the clock tick in uneven intervals, like a drummer practicing new rhythms. 20 minutes later, the timer buzzes. She feels no more rested, but oddly calmer, as if the act of trying were restorative. The rest of the afternoon ambles by. At 5:30, she commits a minor CSS tweak, then closes her IDE. She stands, stretches, and experiences a curious blend of triumph and hollowness, like finishing a marathon only to discover everyone else packed up the finish line banners and gone home. Dusk settles, carrying a cool breeze through the cracked window. She craves something warm and gentle, so she simmers tomato soup and toasts a slice of sourdough. The soup's surface shivers as she sprinkles pepper. The smell reminds her of childhood sick days spent under quilts, mother's hand on her forehead. Bowl empty, lights dim. She powers up the laptop for one final task, the nightly draft. The email client opened to its familiar blank canvas. She types moon into the address bar. The word glows like a candle in an unlit room. Dear Moon, today I became a ghost hero. At 4:12 a.m., I wrestled a diacritic that had frozen thousands of dashboards. By breakfast, the numbers were back, and by lunch, the compliments evaporated. My work is designed to be invisible, and most days I accept that. But tonight, after the adrenaline crash, I feel like the stagehand who repaired the spotlight before the show and now watches the actors take bows. She pauses, rolling a pen between fingers. The tick of the wall clock syncs with her breathing. Outside, a neighbor laughs on a balcony. Someone clinks wine glasses. I'm not angry, she continues, just unmoored. It's wild how pride and loneliness can share the same heartbeat. Maybe you understand. Out there illuminating oceans yet rarely thanked. Sailors navigate by you. Poets write to you. Wolves sing under you. But I bet no one asks if you're tired of hauling light across sky. She leans back, rereads the paragraph, and adds, Still, I'd do it again tomorrow. There's honor in being the backstage crew of civilization. And there's comfort in telling you, especially you, whose silence never feels dismissive. She describes the Pocket Park croissant, the plane tree, the way sparrows scolded each other like over-caffeinated project managers. She admits she almost cried when Sam called her a wizard, not because she doubted him, but because she doubts herself less each time someone else believes. Lessons learned, she writes, echoing the postmortem header, but this time with soul instead of bullet points. 1. Heroes may be invisible, but invisibility isn't the same as absence. 2. The body cannot run on adrenaline alone. Peppermint tea is not breakfast, and croissants count in emergencies only. 3. Pride stored in silence still glows. It just needs a night sky to be seen. She finishes with, Thank you for being that sky. Good night. Her finger hovers over save draft. A stray thought flits by. Should she one day hit send? Maybe. Not tonight. The draft icon spins, then rests. Boot sequence completed. She powers the laptop down. The fan spins to a stop, releasing the day's final sigh. She washes the soup bowl, sets it in the drying rack, and turns off the kitchen light, leaving the apartment awash in soft lunar blue. In the bedroom, she pulls the quilt to her chin. Muscles loosening now, she feels the pleasant weight of earned fatigue rather than crushing exhaustion. Outside, traffic murmurs like distant surf, lulling her senses. Her phone buzzes once, an automatic system health report proclaiming all green. She mutes it, flips the device face down, and closes her eyes. In her mind's theater, she envisions the save draft drifting upward, a paper lantern rising between rooftops. Its glow so faint only the moon can read the ink. Far above, the moon wears no cape, holds no microphone. But Lena imagines it bowing in silent camaraderie. 2 backstage heroes sharing a nod before the curtain falls. Sleep settles over her like velvet, thick and unbroken, and in that deep quiet, applause finally lands. Not from colleagues or dashboards, but from her own steady heartbeat, content to keep the show alive while no one's looking. Chapter 4. When the Power Blinked. Lena was halfway through a sprint planning call when the storm rolled over the city like a freight train on iron rails. All morning the sky had worn a sullen pewter glare, humidity so thick that apartment windows filmed over. The kind of pressure that makes monitors buzz a semitone higher and coworkers speak in shorter sentences. The forecast in the corner of her screen insisted the worst would pass south of town. But by noon, Slack emojis had begun to trade sunglasses for umbrellas. At 2:07 p.m., the first thunderclap rattled her desk lamp. Camera feeds on the call flickered. A teammate's frame pixelated into pastel confetti before snapping back. The product owner droned on about backlog grooming, unaware that half the grid was now glancing toward their windows. Lena caught a white flash in the corner of her eye, lightning splitting the cloud shelf in a jagged signature, and counted reflexively. 1,000, 2 1,000, boom! The second crack felt closer, like a door slammed inside her own chest. She muted herself, rose to tug the skylight shut, and in that split second the apartment fell to black. Monitors died mid-sentence. HVAC fans stuttered. The fridge exhaled a final cough. A wet electric silence settled, so complete she could hear individual raindrops start their spatter on the roof. Tentative, then brimming with confidence. Somewhere in the stairwell, a child squealed, equal parts delight and alarm. Instinct pushed her to jab the power button, refresh routers, check battery backups. But another impulse, older, quieter, told her to wait. The outage was citywide. The routers had nothing to drink. She inhaled deeply, tasting petrichor sneaking through the skylight's cracked seal, and noticed that her shoulders had already begun to descend from around her ears. No laptops humming, no Slack pings, no distant siren of tasks multiplying. Just rain and the faint tick of her analog wall clock bravely soldiering on. Lena fetched a candle from the junk drawer, soy wax, bergamot scent, a holiday gift she'd never found time to burn. She struck a match. The flare painted gold onto cabinet doors and made the ficus look like a stage prop caught in a single spotlight. She found 2 more candles, placed them on inverted mugs for makeshift stands, and felt the room exhale again. Warm light pooling in soft, shy halos. The laptop battery still held charge, but she left it closed. Its glow would feel garish against the sudden hush. Instead, she padded barefoot to the kitchen, where rain drummed a steady conga on the exhaust hood. The gas stove, mercifully indifferent to power grids, clicked to life beneath a kettle. She chose chamomile, something that smelled of hayfields and late summer dusk, letting the tea bag steep while tiny steam ghosts curled upward and vanished. Cup in hand, she circled the apartment as though seeing it for the first time. Code-laden sticky notes on the monitor bezel, a tower of unread library books, the gym shoes that had become symbolic rather than functional. Everything looked softer by candlelight, edges smoothed, priorities shuffled. The storm outside surged, rain now a waterfall sheeting the skylight, thunder rolling like giant barrels along warehouse floors. Yet inside felt strangely safe, insulated by flicker and tea and enforced stillness. She spotted her unused watercolor set on a shelf, still wrapped in cellophane. On impulse, she peeled it open, dug out a sketch pad from college, and returned to the desk. Candlelight isn't ideal for painting, but the dimness liberated her from precision. She laid down strokes of indigo and slate, letting them bleed into each other like clouds smudging horizons. She splattered white flecks for rain, streaked a lightning vein of silver gouache, smiled at the messy beauty. No undo button, no linter complaining. Just pigment and paper and the low percussion of rain. When the kettle whistled a second time, heat lingering on the burner, she realized an hour had slipped by. Her phone, on silent, showed no bars. She flipped it face down again, guiltless. The world had gone offline together. There would be no metrics to chase until the grid returned. Lifting the sketch pad, she admired a stormy seascape that looked suspiciously like her own emotional weather of late. She propped it against the windowsill to dry. The ritual tugged at her, right to the moon, but how without electrons? She rummaged for the leather-bound journal a friend had gifted last birthday. The pages smelled of cedar and linen glue. Taking a fountain pen, not keyboard clicky, but an ink nib that whispered across paper, she wrote in looping script. Dear Moon, the machines fell silent and I heard my heartbeat echoing in the rafters. Rain is conducting an orchestra on the roof, and I am the only audience member. I brewed chamomile and painted thunder. I think the outage unplugged my anxiety along with the fridge. She paused, listening. Somewhere above, a transformer popped. A dull, distant whomp. Then quiet resumed. Pen scratched again. Do you ever envy clouds? They carry so much weight yet drift wherever wind wills, never obsessing over Jira tickets. In this candlelit pause, I'm floating too, weighty yet unburdened. Maybe outages are the universe scheduling mandatory maintenance windows for humans. She detailed the watercolor experiment, the guilt-free phone face down, the way every thunderclap rattled dust from neglected corners. She confessed she felt a flicker of shame for savoring the downtime, while coworkers probably cursed lost progress. But her body hummed gratitude like a tuning fork, finally struck in its true key. When she finished, she signed L with an ink flourish, closed the journal, and set it beside the candles. She would transcribe the letter later, but a paper draft felt deliciously private, like a secret folded into a locket. Rain eased into a steady hiss. Through the window's blurred pane, she spotted neighbors emerging onto balconies. A middle-aged couple sharing a thermos. The upstairs grad student rhythmically hammering bottle caps into a reclaimed wood sculpture. Two kids in rubber boots stomping in the courtyard puddles, squealing each time splash arcs crowned over their knees. The building felt suddenly communal, each tenant lit by flickering constellations of tea lights and phone screens used only as flashlights. Disconnect had linked them in analog camaraderie. A low rumble, this time mechanical, not atmospheric, vibrated through floorboards. Streetlights blinked alive. Refrigerator compressors groaned back to duty. In an instant, her apartment's monitors awakened with login prompts. Routers blinked eager Morse code, and the fridge resumed its familiar basso drone. The spell shattered like sugar glass. Lena extinguished the candles one by one, pinching wicks between dampened fingertips. Smoke ribbons curled, smelling of burnt citrus. She hesitated before opening the laptop, as though breaking a promise to the quiet. But work notifications would avalanche soon, and she preferred a controlled slide. Battery at 82%. She connected power anyway, logged in, and found Slack aflutter. Anyone else just experience a brownout? Server stable, but CI pipeline stalled. Can we reschedule the design review? Reminder, quarter close metrics due EOD. The litany felt louder than the thunder. She cracked her knuckles, transcribed the journal letter into a fresh email to Moon, adding digital footnotes about watercolor therapy and communal candlelight. Part of her wanted to hit send, share this revelation with a friend, or post it as a blog entry titled, Graceful Degradation of the Human Stack. But another part cherished the hush too much to broadcast it. She clicked Save Draft. Work reclaimed the next 2 hours, restarting containers, rerunning the aborted test suite, answering a product manager's slightly frantic call about whether the outage justified slipping the feature deadline. She spoke slowly, still buoyed by chamomile calm, and negotiated a sensible buffer. When the PM thanked her, voice thick with relief, Lena felt the candlelit serenity rekindle for a moment inside her chest. By 7:30 p.m., the backlog was in triage, but stable. She stepped away to cook. With the fridge cold again, she found vegetables that would have wilted: zucchini, cherry tomatoes, a nub of parmesan. She sautéed garlic in olive oil until fragrant, added the zucchini coins, watched them sizzle to emerald. The stovetop light buzzed overhead. She didn't mind. She stirred pasta, spooned bright tomatoes, shaved cheese snowdrifts, and plated the dish with a flourish that made her laugh, tearing basil leaves like a chef in a late-night cooking show no one would see. She ate on the balcony as twilight relinquished the sky to stars. The storm had scrubbed the air clean. Distant neon buzzed sharper, and somewhere to the west, crickets tuned up for the night shift. Above the rooftops, the moon appeared at last, a thin, curved blade, as if still sharpening. She raised her fork in salute. Dishes done, apartment tidy, she signaled to the world that office hours were over by disabling Slack notifications until morning. The red line through the bell icon felt like lower back relief after removing a too-tight belt. She brewed a second chamomile, this one with a drizzle of honey, and took it to the bedroom. There, she reopened the laptop only to play a rain ambience track, chuckling at the irony, digital rain to replace the real. But it filled the background with gentle white noise, and the looped recording lacked the thunder's threat. She placed the computer on the dresser, screen dim. Before sliding under the quilt, she fetched the watercolor painting, propped it on her nightstand. Up close, the stormy seascape looked less like chaos and more like layered calm. Deep currents, luminous sky breaks. The silver lightning now dried to a pearl shimmer. She traced a finger along the horizon line, feeling paper grain beneath skin. When she finally lay down, the rain track coaxed memories of the earlier downpour. Muscles recognized the pattern and loosened. She rehearsed the outage timeline in reverse, each event drifting further: the transformer's whump, the kettle's hiss, the first candle, the match flare, the thunderclap, the blackout. Backwards, the story became an unraveling spool, tension sliding away into darkness. She pictured her journal page folded into a paper boat, floating through her apartment, out the window, along rain-swollen gutters, down to the river, then up. Impossible but believable in dream space, rising on mist toward the waiting moon. The boat's tiny candle burned steadily, illuminating inked words as it sailed a lunar sea none could see but her. Somewhere in the apartment, the fridge cycled off with a soft click, leaving momentary silence before its next hum. The rain loop whispered on. Lena's breathing synced to its rhythm. Inhalation, patter-patter. Exhalation, patter-patter. Until breath and sound were indistinguishable. Thoughts fluttered one by one like tired moths, finally finding rest. Backlog grooming, cucumber tests, transformer pops, watercolor clouds. Each landed and folded wings. Wind nudged the balcony chimes. 3 notes, then stillness. She smiled, eyes already closed. "Thank you for the maintenance window," she mouthed into the pillow, unsure if she addressed the storm, the grid, or the moon. Perhaps all 3. Sleep answered. a blanketing rush, equal parts candle smoke and chamomile, and distant thunder now fading beyond memory's horizon. And high above, the moon carried a new draft, ink still wet, edges crinkled from candle heat, stowed safely in its quiet archive until morning circuits would whir again. Chapter 5, Drafts in Orbit. Friday dawns bright as a backlit spreadsheet, all columns of gold pouring through Lena's curtains. Even before her phone alarm chirps, sunlight has painted a warm stripe across the quilt, and she blinks awake feeling strangely buoyant. The storm's blackout still lingers in muscle memory as a pleasant ache, like the afterglow of a deep tissue massage. She lies there a moment, listening. No thunder, no fridge drone, it has cycled off. Only a distant city hum that sounds gentler than usual, as if the whole block tiptoes into the day. At 7:14 a.m., she swings her feet to the floor and remembers her resolution from earlier in the week. Close the laptop at 6 p.m., sharp, and keep it closed until Monday. It felt revolutionary when she pledged it. Today, it feels possible. She stretches, touches toes, and senses something loosen between shoulder blades. A knot that has lived there since last quarter's release. Coffee first. The French press burbles like a contented cat while she flips through overnight notifications on her phone. Build pipeline all green. No new incident pages. A Slack DM from Sam, time-stamped 1:12 a.m. Crazy idea. Schedule ping-pong break at lunch? She grins. The Sydney engineer's circadian rhythm remains a mystery. She thumbs a reply. I'll bring my best serve, or at least caffeine. Mug cradled in both hands, she steps onto the small balcony. Cool air carries the scent of asphalt still drying, and somewhere a bakery exhales notes of cinnamon. Across the courtyard, an elderly tenant hangs white shirts on a line, the fabric snapping like sails. Lena salutes him with her mug. He nods with maritime gravitas. She thinks, this is what Fridays should feel like. Ships ready to leave harbor, not crews already bailing water. Back inside, the workday begins with her favorite micro-ritual. A fresh playlist, lo-fi beats, no lyrics, and an honest-to-goodness paper checklist. She numbers the tasks. 1. Merge PR number 423, minor CSS fix. 2nd, review Jen's logging proposal. 3rd draft, Q3 OKR retrospective slides. 4 30-minute sync with design at 1100 hours. 5. Shut laptop at 6 p.m. She adds a tiny doodle of a rocket beside the last item, then underlines it in green marker. 9:02 a.m. Small but mighty victories. PR number 423 is first. 10 changed lines, 1 unit test, all green, merge. She types a cheerful commit message. Hotfix, footer link contrast for the win. It flashes into main branch like a pebble dropped into a lake. Ripples minor, mood significant. A Slack channel pings. Design team posts a glitter gif in thanks. She lets it play twice. Sparkling pixels feel earned. Next, Jen's logging proposal. 20-page doc, thorough but verbose. Lena highlights, leaves 2 clarifying comments, and genuinely praises the thoughtful metrics section. A little voice warns, careful, feedback rabbit hole. She glances at the wall clock, 9:37, on track. The positive momentum feels like riding a commuter bike downhill with green lights all the way. 10:15 a.m., context switch turbulence. Calendar reminder, the OKR slide deck. Her brain balks. Storytelling for executives fries a different circuit than debugging. She opens a blank deck anyway, titles the first slide, Invisible Wins, keeping the lights on, then stares. The cursor blinks, and for a moment yesterday's candlelight edges back into her vision. Quiet, smoky, analog. She breathes in, exhales slowly, and begins outlining. Slide 1. Incidents prevented. Database migration, power outage. Slide 2. Efficiency gains. CI runtime -17%. Slide 3. People metrics. Team burnout indicators, PTO uptake. Slide 4. Lessons and next steps. She resists embellishing. Bullet points merely hold space until her narrative coalesces. The cursor no longer looks impatient. It looks like a heartbeat. 11 a.m. Design sync and digital ping pong. The video call opens with cartoon panda backgrounds. Designers coping with Friday energy. Conversation flits between color palettes and performance budgets. Halfway through, Sam messages the group chat. Table tennis. 20-minute break? To Lena's surprise, 2 designers accept. They load a quirky web app where each participant's mouse controls a paddle. For 20 minutes, they volley neon pixels, laughing each time lag warps the ball into quantum teleportation. Lena loses 1921, but logs off euphoric. Oxygen has reached the corners of her brain. 12:07 p.m. Lunch, that's actually lunch. She promised herself, hot meal away from keyboard. She sautés leftover zucchini with garlic and tosses it over toasted country bread, topping the open-faced sandwich with a sunny side egg. The yolk breaks like sunrise across a landscape. She eats at the kitchen counter, no phone, just the rhythm of chewing and the refrigerator's gentle purr. Across the courtyard, the elderly sailor hangs his final shirt, salutes invisible horizons, and disappears indoors. Back at the desk, she writes a sticky note. Feed the human, or the code will starve. It joins the monitor's bezel, a canary yellow guardian. 1:15 p.m. The friend draft decision. Earlier in the week, she felt a tug to share one of her moon drafts with someone alive, someone who might need the reassurance that silent victories count. That tug returns now, insistent. She opens the drafts folder. 32 unsent letters, each a tide pool of the week's emotions. Draft number 27 catches her eye, the one from incident night. I kept the platform breathing while the world dreamed. No applause, but the sunrise felt louder than any cheer. She copies the paragraph, pastes it into a new email addressed to Mira, college roommate, now a nurse logging through triple shifts. Subject: invisible work matters. Promise. She hesitates at the send button. What if it sounds self-congratulatory? But the memory of Mira's last text, ER is a war zone, I feel transparent, pushes her onward. Click, whoosh, the email sails into ether. Heartbeat spikes, then steadies. It feels right. A paper boat launched downstream. 2:05 p.m. OKR storytelling. With caffeine freshly brewed, she rehearses the deck aloud. Instead of dry stats, she frames incidents as night shift heroes, echoes of hospital triage that she hopes Mira would appreciate. She sprinkles gentle humor, a photo of last night's watercolor labeled system diagram, graceful degradation. She actually chuckles at her own slide. Rare. The presentation file saves at 3:11 p.m. She exits with a flourish like a chef dusting flour off hands. 3:30 p.m. The micro panic and the boundary. A Slack ping jumps the queue. product lead asks if the new analytics endpoint can launch tonight instead of Monday. Tiny change, marketing campaign prepped. Lena's pulse quickens. She alt-tabs to the code, scans pending pull requests. Integration tests still flaky, documentation half done. Releasing would gamble the stability that earned yesterday's calm. She types, deletes, retypes. Tonight isn't feasible without risking regressions. Monday morning keeps quality intact and lets support schedule coverage. Happy to discuss in Monday stand-up. She clicks send. Boundary set. She stands, walks a lap around the living room rug to burn the leftover adrenaline. When she returns, the product lead has reacted with a green checkmark. No debate, no guilt. She writes on the checklist, 6 p.m. shutdown, still on track, and adds another rocket doodle. 4:15 p.m. A reply from Mira. Phone vibrates. Mira, holy wow. Crying in supply closet. Good tears. You just described my Tuesday code blue save. Maybe our invisible shifts light each other's skies. Coffee soon? Warmth blooms in Lena's chest, bigger than espresso ever granted. She replies, yes. Next week, my treat. Hang in there, Starlight Keeper. She sits back, letting the words settle. A thought surfaces. Perhaps the moon drafts were never meant to stay secluded forever, only to incubate until someone needed their glow. 5 p.m., last sweep and digital sundown. She spends the final hour triaging JIRA tickets, leaving clear next steps for Monday morning Lena. Commit pushes. Unit tests pass. At 5:47, she posts a number team backend. Rolling into weekend. Ping if you're on call. I'll be offline after 6 p.m. Have a restful one. 3 wave emojis, 2 party parrots, 1 animated sloth and hammock reply almost instantly. Malay 5:59. She closes each application deliberately. IDE, doc editor, Slack, browser. The laptop clock flips to 6 a.m. as she presses shutdown. Fans spin down with a soft whir, like deep exhalation after yoga. She unplugs the charger, coils it, and places it in a drawer. A symbolic portcullis raised between work and weekend. 6:20 p.m. Twilight errands an unexpected joy. Outside, July evening. Light bathes brick facades in copper. She strolls to the indie bookstore 3 blocks away, breathing in grill smoke from a food truck convoy parked by the canal. At the store, she beelines for staff picks. A slim novella titled Letters Never Sent practically leaps into her hands. She laughs. The universe apparently curates reading lists. At checkout, the clerk scans the cover and says, "This one pairs well with mint tea." Lena buys a box of mint tea from the cafe shelf just to honor the coincidence. On the walk home, she detours through a small park ringed with sycamores. Family's picnic. A street musician coaxes mellow chords from a guitar. She sits on a bench, opens the novella, and reads 5 pages that feel like watching paper birds learn to fly. A sense of spaciousness unfurls inside her ribs. Weekend oxygen. 8 p.m. Balcony supper and lunar rise. Dinner is effortless. Leftover pasta warmed, garnished with basil. She plates it, grabs the mint tea, and eats on the balcony while neon signs blink awake. Off to the east, the moon ticks upward, a generous gibbous tonight, pale gold against cobalt. She remembers draft number 1. Wish I had more daylight. Turns out the moon provides its own. She raises her mug. Cheers, celestial inbox. 9:15 p.m. Evening ritual reimagined. Laptop remains in the drawer. Instead, she flips open the leather journal. Candlelight, now intentional, not enforced, flickers. Fountain pen glides. Dear moon, I kept my promise. 6 p.m. arrived and I walked away. The world did not combust. Not a single server fainted. Instead, I found a novella, a street song, and a friend's tears transformed into hope. She writes about boundaries as invisible fences that let wildflowers reclaim soil. She details the delight of ping-pong lag laughs, the taste of zucchini egg toast, the relief in saying no, Monday is better. She signs your co-conspirator in quiet revolutions, L. She pauses, nib of the pen hovering. Then below the signature, she adds a postscript. P.S. I think drafts become stars when they finally reach another heart. Tonight one did. Thank you for teaching me orbital mechanics of compassion. She leaves the page open to dry, ink shimmering. 10 p.m. Slow orbit into sleep. Rain ambiences again, low volume. She places the novella on the nightstand beside the dried watercolor. Together they look like museum artifacts from the week's private exhibit. Moments rescued from hustle. Curtains part just enough for moonlight to stripe the floorboards. She slips beneath the quilt, phone face down, but glances once to check Mira's status. Offline. Good. The nurse is likely catching a rare stretch of sleep. Lena inhales through the nose for 4 counts, holds for 4, exhales 8. Box breathing learned in some webinar but rarely practiced. Tonight it feels organic, as if lungs remember old rhythms. Thoughts drift. The sailor's flapping shirts, the pixel ping-pong, the email whoosh, the way sunlight gilded her coffee mug at dawn. Each memory orbits gently, not clamoring for action, just existing. Satellites in a quiet sky. Somewhere below, the fridge hums. Somewhere above, the moon glows steady. And between them, Lena's heartbeat finds a peaceful cadence, no longer syncopated by push notifications. Sleep draws near like a soft-footed cat, curling against her side. Just before surrendering, a final image flickers. All her saved drafts, 32 paper boats, floating up, unfolding into constellations that trace the shape of a laptop gently closing. Click. Darkness. Breath deepens. The unseen audience of stars applauds in silence, and Lena's quiet revolution of boundaries is complete, at least until Monday, when a new orbit will begin. But that is 2 sunrises away, and tonight belongs to rest.